The Stranger at Harrison Steele's Memorial. Part 1. The Unexpected Arrival. The rain fell steadily on Greenwood Cemetery as mourners gathered around the polished marble headstone. Maya Chen stood at the edge of the crowd, clutching 6-month-old Ethan close to her chest. The baby's dark eyes seemed to take in everything around him with unusual intensity. Maya wore a simple black dress, her long black hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked nothing like the wealthy elite surrounding Harrison Steele's grave. Margaret Steele, the family matriarch, stood rigid beside the casket. At 72, she still commanded respect in Seattle's business circles. Her silver hair was perfectly styled despite the weather. Beside her, David Steele, Harrison's younger brother, checked his phone repeatedly. His expensive suit couldn't hide his nervous energy. Harrison Steele had been Seattle's golden boy. At 35, he built Steele Industries from a small tech startup into a billion-dollar empire focused on renewable energy and smart city technology. His sudden death in a plane crash 3 weeks ago had shocked the business world. Maya had debated coming today. She and Harrison had kept their relationship secret for obvious reasons. She was an environmental lawyer who had sued Steele Industries twice over land development projects. Their professional conflicts had somehow turned into passionate late-night debates, then stolen moments together, and finally, love. Catherine Steele, Harrison's ex-wife, arrived with their 12-year-old twins, Emma and Lucas. Catherine looked elegant in her grief, her blonde hair catching what little sunlight broke through the clouds. The divorce had been finalized just 6 months ago, but they had maintained a cordial relationship for the children's sake. As the pastor spoke about Harrison's contributions to clean technology and philanthropy, Maya felt Ethan squirm against her. The baby had his father's stubborn streak, even at 6 months old. She gently rocked him, whispering soft words in Mandarin that her grandmother had taught her. Margaret's sharp eyes found Maya in the crowd. There was something familiar about the young woman, though she couldn't place where they might have met. David noticed his mother's focused attention and followed her gaze. His face paled slightly when he saw the baby. The resemblance was unmistakable. Ethan had Harrison's distinctive amber eyes and the same determined set to his jaw. Even his small hands moved with the same restless energy Harrison had possessed during important meetings. After the service, as people began to disperse, Margaret approached Maya directly. Her voice was steady but curious. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Margaret Steele." Maya's heart raced, but she met the older woman's gaze steadily. "Maya Chen. I was an environmental consultant who worked with Harrison on several projects." She paused, gathering courage. "This is Ethan, your grandson." The words hung in the air like thunder. Margaret's composure cracked for just a moment before she regained control. Around them, the remaining mourners pretended not to notice the tension, but Maya could feel their stares burning into her back. Family secrets. Revealed, Margaret Steele's penthouse office overlooked Elliott Bay, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a commanding view of Seattle's skyline. 3 days after the funeral, Maya sat across from the Steele family matriarch, baby, Ethan sleeping peacefully in her arms. The DNA results lay open on the mahogany desk between them. 99.7% probability, Margaret read aloud, her voice betraying no emotion. Ethan Chen is indeed Harrison's biological son. She removed her reading glasses and studied Maya carefully. "You must have questions about your son's inheritance rights." Maya shook her head. "I didn't come for money, Mrs. Steele. I came because Ethan deserves to know his father's family. Harrison spoke about you often. He loved you deeply." Catherine. Steele entered the office, followed by David and the twins. Emma and Lucas hung back shyly, but their curiosity about their baby half-brother was obvious. Catherine had requested this meeting after the DNA confirmation. "I want to apologize," Catherine said, settling into a chair. Harrison and I married for the wrong reasons. Our families thought it made business sense, but we were never truly in love. We cared for each other, but there was no passion. She looked at Maya with something resembling respect. He found that with you. David cleared his throat uncomfortably. There are legal matters to consider. Harrison's will is complex, and with Ethan's existence confirmed, we need to review certain provisions. Margaret stood and walked to a portrait of Harrison on the wall. Before we discuss business, there's something you should know about your son's heritage, Maya. Harrison was adopted. The revelation surprised Maya. Harrison had never mentioned being adopted during their time together. We couldn't have children. Naturally, Margaret continued. Harrison came to us when he was 3 years old through a private adoption agency. His birth mother was a young Native American woman who died in an automobile accident. We never knew much about his biological father. Emma, the older twin, spoke up quietly. Dad always felt different. He used to say he could hear the wind talking to him when we went camping. Margaret nodded. Harrison became obsessed with his heritage as he grew older. He hired private investigators, worked with genealogy services, even consulted with tribal historians. Last year, he made a breakthrough. David pulled out a thick file. He discovered his birth name was Harrison Windwalker. His biological family belonged to the Tulalip tribes, but there's more. His expression grew serious. Harrison had been investigating something he called Project Reclamation in the weeks before his death. He believed someone was illegally acquiring tribal lands for mining operations. Maya felt a chill run through her. Harrison mentioned some concerns about land deals in our last conversation. He seemed worried, almost frightened. We found encrypted files on his personal computer, Margaret said. Files that his business partner Marcus Webb has been very eager to access. Marcus claims they contain sensitive corporate data, but Harrison's personal assistant thinks they're something else entirely. Catherine leaned forward. Harrison changed his will 6 weeks, before the accident. He added provisions that none of us understood at the time. Now, with Ethan's existence confirmed, those provisions might make sense. What kind of provisions? Maya asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. David exchanged glances with his mother before answering. Controlling interest in steel. Industries goes to Harrison's firstborn son to be held in trust until he reaches 25, but there's a condition attached. The trustee must work with representatives of the Tulalip tribes to investigate and remedy any historical injustices involving tribal lands. Maya stared at them in shock. Ethan stirred in her arms, making soft baby sounds as if sensing the gravity of the conversation around him. Your son, Maya, just inherited one of the largest technology companies in the Pacific Northwest, Margaret said quietly. And with it, the responsibility to uncover what Harrison died trying to expose. The digital trail Alex Rivera's fingers flew across multiple keyboards as code cascaded down several monitors in his cramped downtown Seattle apartment. The 28-year-old cybersecurity expert had been Harrison Steele's friend since college, and now he was Maya's best hope of unlocking the encrypted files that might explain Harrison's death. Your boyfriend was paranoid as hell, Alex muttered, taking a sip of cold coffee. This encryption is military grade. He really didn't want anyone reading these files. Maya bounced Ethan gently while watching Alex work. 2 weeks had passed since the family meeting, and she was beginning to understand the weight of responsibility now resting on her shoulders. Can you break it? I'm not breaking it. Harrison left me a key, but it's buried in layers of security protocols. Alex's dark eyes reflected the screen's glow. He visited me 3 days before the crash, said he was working on something important, left me this drive, and told me to give it to anyone who came asking about Project Windwalker after his death. Detective Sarah Thompson sat in the corner, taking notes. The Seattle Police Department had reopened Harrison's case after Margaret Steele presented them with concerns about the timing of his death and the mysterious encrypted files. Thompson was a 15-year veteran with sharp instincts and little patience for corporate games. "Got it," Alex announced suddenly. The main screen filled with documents, photographs, and financial records. "Jesus, Harrison! What did you stumble into?" The files revealed a systematic scheme to acquire Native American reservation lands through fraudulent transactions. Marcus Webb, Harrison's business partner and Steel Industries' chief financial officer, had been working with corrupt officials to purchase mineral-rich tribal territories at far below market value. Maya felt sick as she read through the evidence. Harrison discovered that Webb was using Steel Industries' environmental consulting contracts as cover for geological surveys on tribal lands. They were identifying valuable mineral deposits, then manipulating the legal system to force sales. Thompson leaned forward, studying photographs of legal documents. "These land deals go back 5 years. Webb's made millions selling survey data to mining corporations before the tribes even knew their land had been sold out from under them." Alex pulled up financial records showing massive transfers between Webb's personal accounts and various shell companies. "Look at this timeline. Every major land acquisition correlates with Webb receiving payments from mining interests." Harrison must have confronted Webb about this, Maya said, remembering their last phone conversation. Harrison had sounded stressed, mentioning a difficult business decision he had to make. Thompson's phone buzzed. She answered quickly, her expression growing grim. "That was the FAA investigator. They've completed their analysis of Harrison's plane crash." She looked at Maya seriously. "The fuel line had been tampered with. This is now officially a murder investigation." The apartment fell silent except for the soft sounds of Ethan playing with a toy Margaret had brought him. Maya felt the weight of fear settling over her. If Webb had killed Harrison to protect his scheme, what would he do to protect himself now? "There's more," Alex said, opening another folder. Harrison traced his birth family. His biological grandfather, Joseph Windwalker, is still alive. He's 83 years old and lives on the Tulalip Reservation. According to these documents, he's been fighting the illegal land sales for years, but nobody would listen to him. Thompson stood up, holstering her notepad. "We need to bring Webb in for questioning immediately. Maya, you and the baby should stay somewhere safe until we sort this out." Maya looked at Ethan, who was reaching up at her with his tiny hands, completely unaware that his father had died trying to protect his heritage. "I want to meet Joseph Windwalker first. Ethan should know his great-grandfather, and I need to understand what Harrison was fighting for." "It's too dangerous," Thompson protested. "Webb doesn't know we've cracked the files yet," Maya said with determination that surprised her. "I'm not hiding from this. Harrison died for justice, and his son deserves to see that justice served." As she gathered Ethan's things, Maya felt Harrison's presence somehow guiding her forward. The scared environmental lawyer was transforming into a mother with a mission, ready to finish what the man she loved had started. The winding road to the Tulalip Reservation cut through dense forests of Douglas fir and cedar, their towering branches creating a natural cathedral overhead. Maya gripped the steering wheel tightly as she navigated the curves, checking her rear view mirror constantly for signs of the black sedan that had been following them since they left Seattle. Baby Ethan slept peacefully in his car seat, unaware that they were driving toward what might be their most dangerous encounter yet. Detective Thompson had insisted on taking a separate route with backup units, hoping to throw off any surveillance, while Maya kept her appointment with Joseph Windwalker. The elderly tribal elder had agreed to meet them after Alex Rivera's digital investigation revealed the connection between Harrison's birth family and Marcus Webb's land fraud schemes. Joseph Windwalker's home sat on a bluff overlooking Puget Sound, a modest wooden structure surrounded by traditional cedar totems and native plant gardens. At 83, he moved with the careful dignity of someone who had witnessed decades of struggle and survival. His silver hair was braided with small eagle feathers, and his amber eyes held the same intensity Maya had loved in Harrison. "Little Windwalker comes home," Joseph said softly, as Maya approached with Ethan in her arms. The baby, who usually fussed when meeting strangers, went to the elderly man without hesitation, as if recognizing something familiar in his weathered features. Maya felt an unexpected emotion surge through her as she watched Joseph hold her son. "You have his eyes. Harrison's eyes." "Harrison had his grandmother's eyes," Joseph corrected gently. "My daughter, Sarah. She died with Harrison's father when he was just 2 years old. Car accident on Highway 101 during a winter storm." His voice carried the weight of old grief, but also warmth as he studied Ethan's face. "I searched for my grandson for 30 years. When he found me 8 months ago, it was like Sarah had sent him home." They settled on Joseph's porch, where traditional dream catchers moved gently in the afternoon breeze. Maya could see why Harrison had felt connected to this place. There was a peace here that seemed to emanate from the land itself. "Harrison told me he was investigating land sales," Maya said. "He seemed frightened during our last conversation, mentioned someone named Webb who was causing problems." Joseph's expression darkened immediately. "Marcus Webb. That man has been poison to our people for 5 years. He corrupted tribal council members with money and false promises, convinced them to sell sacred lands for what he claimed were environmental protection projects. But the lands weren't being protected," Maya realized. Webb was working with mining companies. He would commission fake environmental studies through Harrison's company, then use the data to identify valuable mineral deposits on our territories. Joseph's voice grew heavy with anger. Then he would approach compromised council members with offers to purchase worthless land for modest amounts. Maya felt sick understanding the scope of Webb's betrayal. The tribal leaders didn't know about the minerals. Webb made sure they didn't. He bribed the right people, forged geological reports, even threatened families who asked too many questions. Joseph pointed toward the horizon where industrial equipment was visible in the distance. 3 sacred burial sites have been destroyed by mining operations. Hundreds of acres of forest clear-cut for copper extraction, all on land our ancestors have protected for generations. The sound of car engines approaching interrupted their conversation. Maya's heart raced as she recognized the black Mercedes sedan that had been following them, now accompanied by 2 additional vehicles with tinted windows. Marcus Webb emerged from the lead car with 4 men in expensive suits who looked more like corporate security than business associates. At 45, Webb still maintained the polished appearance that had made him successful in Seattle's business circles, but his usual charm was replaced by cold desperation. "Maya Chen," Webb called out as he approached the porch. "I believe you have something that belongs to me. Some files that were stolen from Steel Industries servers." Maya instinctively moved closer to Joseph, who still held Ethan protectively. "Those files belong to Harrison. He died trying to expose your crimes." Webb's laugh carried no warmth. "Harrison died because he was naive enough to think he could destroy legitimate business arrangements with selective evidence and emotional appeals about Native American rights." He gestured toward his companions. "These gentlemen represent various mining corporations and government agencies who have significant investments in our land development projects." "Your illegal land theft operations, you mean?" Joseph said calmly, though Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. "Legal land purchases, properly filed with state and federal agencies," Webb corrected smoothly. "The contracts are all legitimate, signed by duly elected tribal representatives and approved by appropriate oversight committees." "Representatives you bribed?" Maya accused. "Committees you corrupted with payoffs from mining companies." Webb's facade finally cracked. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. These land deals represent hundreds of millions in mining rights and energy development contracts. Too many important people have invested too much money to let some idealistic environmental lawyer and a collection of out-of-context computer files destroy everything." One of Webb's companions, a tall man with cold gray eyes, stepped forward. The files need to disappear along with anyone who's seen their contents. This situation has gone too far to be resolved through legal channels. Maya felt real fear for the first time since this began. These weren't just corporate criminals, they were dealing with people willing to commit murder to protect their investments. "You killed Harrison," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Harrison killed himself by being too stubborn to accept a reasonable buyout offer," Webb replied coldly. "He could have taken $50 million and retired quietly. Instead, he chose to be a hero for people who can't even properly manage their own tribal affairs." Joseph's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Our people have managed these lands sustainably for thousands of years. It's greedy men like you who destroy everything you touch." The distant sound of sirens began to filter through the forest. Webb checked his phone and cursed under his breath. "Change of plans," he told his companions. "We handle this now, before the police arrive." But Webb had underestimated Joseph Windwalker. The moment he saw the approaching vehicles, the elderly tribal elder had activated a silent alarm system connected directly to both tribal police and the FBI's Seattle field office. Detective Thompson's backup plan was already in motion. As police vehicles surrounded the property from multiple directions, Webb realized his carefully constructed criminal empire was finally collapsing. The man who had built his fortune by stealing from Native American communities was about to face the justice that Harrison Steele had died trying to deliver. Justice and new beginnings. 6 months later, Maya stood in the King County Superior Court holding Ethan, now walking unsteadily and babbling in what Margaret Steele insisted were complete sentences. Judge Patricia Hernandez, a respected jurist, known for her fairness in complex corporate cases, reviewed the final settlement agreements that would reshape steel industries and return stolen lands to the Tulalip tribes. Marcus Webb sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, his expensive suits and arrogant demeanor replaced by the reality of facing life in prison for murder, conspiracy, and fraud. The evidence from Harrison's encrypted files had been overwhelming, supported by testimony from tribal members, corrupt officials who had turned state's evidence, and financial experts who traced millions in illegal payments. "Mr. Webb," Judge Hernandez said sternly, "your crimes represent not just corporate greed, but cultural genocide. You systematically destroyed Native American communities for personal profit. This court sentences you to life in prison without possibility of parole for the murder of Harrison Steele, plus consecutive sentences for fraud and conspiracy charges." Maya felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Justice for Harrison wouldn't bring him back, but it would protect other families from Webb's schemes. Margaret Steele sat in the gallery with Catherine and the twins, who had become surprisingly close to Maya and Ethan over the past months. The Steele family had undergone its own transformation, embracing their new multicultural expansion and Harrison's vision of corporate responsibility. Joseph Windwalker, now serving as senior advisor to the Steel Industries Board, had helped design a new business model that prioritized environmental protection and indigenous rights. The company's projects now required tribal approval and shared profits with affected communities. "In the matter of Harrison Steele's estate," Judge Hernandez continued, "this court approves the settlement agreement. Steel Industries will be restructured, with controlling interest held in trust for Ethan Chen Steele until his 25th birthday. Maya Chen will serve as primary trustee, with Joseph Windwalker and Margaret Steele as co-trustees." Alex Rivera, now Steel Industries' chief technology officer, had developed new systems to ensure corporate transparency. Detective Thompson, who had been promoted to lieutenant after breaking the case, served as an independent oversight advisor. Furthermore, the judge added, "This court orders the immediate return of all illegally acquired tribal lands to the Tulalip Nation, along with compensatory damages of $50 million to be paid by Steel Industries for historical exploitation." After the hearing, Maya walked with Ethan through Pioneer Square, the same area where she had first met Harrison at a coffee shop 2 years ago. He had been arguing with someone on his phone about environmental regulations, and she had been preparing for another lawsuit against his company. Neither could have imagined their professional rivalry would become love, or that their son would inherit both the responsibility and power to change everything. Margaret approached them, carrying a small wrapped gift. "I wanted to give this to Ethan now that everything is settled." Inside was a silver necklace with a traditional Native American eagle pendant, inscribed with Harrison Windwalker steel and today's date. "His father's heritage," Margaret explained, "and his future. Joseph helped me choose it." Ethan reached for the shiny pendant with both hands, and Maya could almost hear Harrison's voice on the wind, proud of his son and the justice they had achieved together. As they walked toward the waterfront where Joseph waited with Emma and Lucas, Maya realized that Harrison's death, while tragic, had accomplished something he could never have achieved while alive. It had brought together two families, two cultures, and two ways of understanding justice. Ethan would grow up knowing he was both a Steele heir and a Windwalker descendant, with responsibilities to both legacies. The baby took another wobbly step forward, reaching toward his great-grandfather's outstretched hands. Behind them, Seattle's skyline rose toward the clouds, but ahead lay the sacred lands of his ancestors, finally returned home where they belonged. Harrison Steele's son was ready to build a better future on the foundation of truth his father had died to protect.